me? Can you hear me okay? I see that we've got, did I throw out the timing? Yeah, I messed up the timing, and Don Gallagher helped me out. He sent me a message on Patreon and let me know that we were having issues. So I was able to fix it. I see that in addition to Don, we have Isopods with me. ASDF is something, I'll just call you, can I call you AAS maybe? I don't know. Wendy Hickson, Luch Carlucci, Frank the Tank, Tennyson Kingsley, Rochelle Workman, and Aunt Sandy Skinks. Sweet. And so far, I think those are the ones who have commented, but I'm still catching up with the chat. The Beetle guy's here as well, I see. And Green Jedi Monkey, Aaron's Isopods, Ruben Daly. Excellent. So, greetings everyone. How are we doing? I thought maybe we would stream outside today just for fun. It's been a while. And the weather is actually amenable to such things. I'm out on my deck here. You can see behind me is the Calorie pear tree blooming, and behind that's the Kentucky yellowwood that's just barely starting to leaf out. You can see a curly willow in the background. So I'm kind of excited to be out here in the weather. That is friendly weather for the first time in a long time, really, that I've done this on a live stream. Magnificent animals include gibbon here. I saw someone ask me a question. Who was it? Oh, include gibbon asked me what my favorite insect is. So I need to think about that a little bit. But I will try to answer that. Major's Exotics. Oh, second night admitted to the hospital. So sorry about that. But I am glad that I can be a welcome and distraction for you. So that's good. Some of my favorite insects. Ooh, boy. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite insect. I do love mantids. I love Dasymutillids. Well, all mutilids, really. But Dasymutil is probably my favorite genus of mutilids, velvet ants. I love beetles. Of many different kinds. It's really hard to pick a favorite insect. I think if I could, I don't, but if I could, I would probably keep some phasmids. Someday I want to have a APHIS approved facility, you know, what do they call it? Containment facility, so I can keep some stick insects, because otherwise there's not very many you can keep, something like that. So yeah. All right. So those are some of my favorite insects, I guess. There's so many others. Yeah. I'm glad. See, the sun is over that way, and so you're facing approximately, I guess it would be southeast, and so you're avoiding the sun. And Green Jedi Monkey, 100% correct. The calorie pear stinks, and I can smell it. It looks pretty, smells bad. Sonosuke, hello, welcome. So Ruben, I forgot to say, did I explain that Dasymutillids are velvet ants? Dasymutillids, well, Dasymutilla is a genus. Mutilids, or the Mutilidae, are the family. So I kind of messed that up when I said it. Let's see. Oh, there's Theropod Hunter. Aaron's Isopods just had an ant infestation. Your torrential enclosure would take care of that. But do you have any suggestions for keeping the ants from? I am going to see if I can adjust this connection. So you're going to look at the trees for a moment. Okay, how's this? Does the connection seem okay? I just had to, I'm tethering on my phone because usually the connection to the internet isn't great from out here, but if I have my phone right next to me, it was just charging a few feet away from me in the house, but it looks like this might give us a better connection, so we'll try it. So Aaron's Isopod, one thing, you can find out where the ants are coming in and put down a barrier of something like diatomaceous earth. That could be one way to do it. You can look into making barriers on the outside of the enclosures, like on the shelves or something, of something that ants will not cross. Diatomaceous earth is something they have trouble crossing because it kills them. So, but it's it's a biologically sourced. Basically, it's diatoms, the skeletons, the silicaceous skeletons of diatoms that are ground up, and they are really bad for insect cuticles. There's some disagreement over how that actually works, whether it causes them to desiccate very quickly because it wicks oils away from their cuticle, or whether it is like it would be for us if we walked barefoot on broken glass. But at any rate, it does seem to cause the insects a lot of problems, so they don't cross it and they don't survive it if they try to cross it. So Entity 107, what do you think about aquatic isopods? I think they're fantastic. They were the first isopods I've kept. I've kept both freshwater and saltwater aquatic isopods. It's been a while though, so I hope to do some again. Yes, isopods and more. It is a wonderful day here. Beautiful temperature, doing really well. I think we're in the 70s right now here, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So happy. Ruben, congrats on finding the garter shed. That's awesome. Theropod hunter, a friend with millipede eggs. Centrobolus or Centrobolus, an excellent genus. Love those. Hope those do well for your friend. And gecko ants, good point. If you put the fluon baby powder, the fluon barrier or the baby powder on the outside of enclosures, that could help keep ants out. Hey, that's awesome. Can't quite tell what that symbol is, but the pets. I was so excited to meet you yesterday. That was fun. We got to meet, and do you just say the pets when you use that name? I got to meet 3 of them, all picking up some isopod equipment yesterday, so some supplies. So it was really fun to meet you. Glad you're here. And Sonosuke, yeah, 90s in the Mojave Desert. I live about 4 or 5 hours north of the northernmost border of the Mojave Desert, so quite a bit cooler here. Also, the elevation's a bit higher. I think the elevation in the part of the Mojave Desert where I can get to in my state is about 2,000 something feet of elevation, and here I'm about 4,500. Okay, Cassandra, how long do you wait to feed a new isopod culture? The source other than leaf litter. I sort of play that by ear. It kind of depends what's in there. If I feel like the substrate is mature enough, like it has rotting leaves and rotting wood and the isopods are going to be fine, I might not feed it for a few weeks or even a few months. If I feel like the substrate in there, like the leaves are dry and not really decaying properly, or there's not enough rotting wood, that kind of thing in there, I might feed them right away, just very small amounts on a shell dish or some other kind, a 3D printed dish, something like that, to make sure that they have food. And I find that if I am in an enclosure, pardon me, I should have gotten my water bottle. I find that if there's not a lot of that decaying leaves and wood in their new enclosure, that the leaves and wood in their enclosure still haven't decayed enough for them to really eat, that they will go after that food. Excuse me. And this is sort of a rough guideline. If there's plenty of decayed leaf litter and wood, they might not go after it so much. And Majors Exotis, I've helped you want blue death finny beetles. That's awesome. Did you see my Instagram post the other day? Is that what's going on? Okay, so the pets, excellent. And the pets has quite an assortment of reptiles. I got to hear about it, which was pretty cool. And they're getting into isopods. You already have 3 or 4 different species of isopods and are kind of expanding. So that was fun. So theropod hunter, land crabs. I have kept a couple of different species of land hermit crabs before, and that's it. So not true crabs, but I've kept Cenobita clypeatus and the Ecuadorian. I don't remember what the scientific name of the Ecuadorian crab is. It's been decades, but I have done it. Oh, Frank the Tank. thanks for sharing the Blue Death Finding Beetle stream. That must be the one from Josh from Isobuddies and Ben Quintanas. I have begun to listen to the replay. I haven't finished it yet, but I will. I pretty much watch or listen to the Isobuddies just about every show, and I often can't show up live. I do when I can, but when I can't, I play the replay. So Tristan 222, in feeding your mantids, how do you prevent houseflies from flying out of the enclosure? Prevent houseflies from flying out of the enclosure. One thing that I do is I put the fly in the refrigerator, or actually the freezer is what I usually do, but just like 30 seconds, and that depends on your freezer and the temperature in your freezer, so you have to kind of count that out. But if I put one in a deli cup, like a 64-ounce deli cup, for about 30 seconds, then the fly slows down a lot. I dump it into the mantis enclosure, close the lid, and we're good to go. And have you checked out Big Fat Fids for enclosures? BigFatFids.com might be a good source for mantis enclosures. And I know that Tarantula Cribs would be another one, because Tarantula Cribs has recently created mantis-friendly lids for their Tarantula Cribs enclosures. You can like swap out lids, and one of the lid designs is a mesh lid, so the millipedes, why am I saying millipedes? The mantis has a good molting platform and a lot of ventilation, so it's pretty awesome. And the pets, you just got your 60 Panda Kings. I remember your dad saying you were thinking, or you were planning on getting the Panda Kings. They are adorable. They're a great species. I love those. So congrats on the Panda Kings. They're one of the fastest breeding Cubaris or Cubaris out there. I think they're still considered Cubaris as far as I remember, and they're very cool. So congrats on that. And the fact that you got 60 is excellent. They're going to be breeding like crazy before you know it. I would be surprised if you don't have a lot more of them in a month. Cryptic Bell, hello and welcome. Tennyson, what's the rarest isopod I keep? Well, as far as like rare species, I don't know. I don't know that I keep anything that's really rare as a species. As far as fairly rare in the hobby, maybe Porcelio expansis autumnal equinox. That's pretty rare in the hobby, and it's hard to, they're a little bit hard to source, but I do have those. That could be it. They're one of my favorites. So Isopods and more with me. Brian and the Reptarium. That sounds familiar to me. Which Brian? What's Brian's last name? That sounds super familiar to me, but I think you've already sold me a Reptarium, so yeah, I would probably visit because it's a Reptarium. And Gecko Ants, have you or are you keeping tailless whip scorpions? I certainly am. I have 2 of them, a probable pair. They are juveniles. One just molted out. If you want to get, the most recent update is on my Instagram. I just posted like a 20-second, something like that, video of the one that has recently molted. Pretty young still, but they are lovely. I only have Damon diadema. It's the only species I have kept. I would like to get into some of the others. I really want to keep Carinus acosta, which is a very small species that reproduces through parthenogenesis. There are quite a number of species. I'd love to keep some of the Euphrynicus that are gigantic. There are so many species I'd love to keep, especially some communal ones like I think it's Phrynis marginimaculatus or marginimaculatum. I always forget, but that's a Floridian species that is very communal. So Luke, I am your father. Any scorpions near where you live? Yes, scorpions, yes. I can probably drive to a place to find scorpions in 10, 15 minutes and find some scorpions. I haven't gone like blacklighting here nearby. I need to, but I have found scorpions in just not too far from here. And so my estimation is that within 15 minutes, I could get to a place where I could find scorpions. Arizona bark scorpions do live in my state, but they mostly only live in 2 counties down in the south. I believe, Kane County and Washington County, which are just like on a border with Arizona. And I have found Arizona bark scorpions in Arizona, and I believe I found them here, but the last time I found scorpions that I believe were probably Arizona bark scorpions, it was so long ago I wasn't sure how to ID them. But I found scorpions that answer their description down in Kane County near Lake Powell area, and I found some that may have been in the Washington County area, but they do have them in the state. Let's see. So theropod hunter, Metastasarma obesum, is that a land crab? I'm assuming by the name, it looks like a crab name. So cryptic. What happens if you find an ivory millipede? Well, I have never found one in the wild because I don't live anywhere near their native range. But tell me a little bit more about what you mean. Magnificent animals, Armadillo officinalis. They are pretty cool, pretty unique. One of the longest lived isopods, the longest lived terrestrial isopods. They're big. They can make a hissing noise through stridulation. I mean, what's not to like about them? So you ordered 40 and got 20 extra the pets. That's awesome. That's an excellent win. Emily Wilson, welcome. Yeah, night golds are pretty rare in the hobby. At least my strain that I call night golds is pretty rare in the hobby because they originate with me, and I've only released some B grade specimens. So Ruben Daly keeps Reductioniscus tuberculatus, a microspiked isopod. Pretty cool. Oh, okay. That's why it made sense. That's why it made sense. Mysopods and more. Brian Barczyk, yes. Brian Barczyk, I know of him and I would totally visit him if I could. I heard recently of the issues that he's had, health issues and so on, and I hope he's able to get through that. I think he has an amazing amount of enthusiasm, and he's done a lot in terms of with interesting reptiles and done some interesting things in his reptarium. So that's the reptarium you're talking about. Totally, I'd visit that one. So Kimberly Kitty, got some velvet ass last summer because I stumbled across your vids. I still have most of them. Awesome. Came from Bugs in Cyberspace, and they're looking older but still plugging away. They live with my blue death fanning beetles. Excellent, excellent pairing. I learned about that pairing from Peter at Bugs in Cyberspace. And Bugs in Cyberspace remains one of the best sources for velvet ants in the hobby. And as blue death fanning beetles as well. And they are, you can sometimes get the velvet ants. I've had them live 2.5 years, I think, maybe is my longest, I want to say. So you're doing well if you got them last summer. You're coming up on a year and you might have them for a bit longer. I've had some that have only lasted, 10 days. It happens. But hopefully yours will keep going for a while. And, ooh, Tennyson, dirty pied vulgariomorph. Interesting. I'm working on a pied vulgariomorph too. I think I've shown on the video that Lee sent me some specimens of, and I'm still trying to make sure it proves out. I'm not sure yet. So Ramingo, has been a while, but welcome. Going pretty well. Have a reptile expo on Saturday. So on Friday, I actually took the day off from work so that I'm going to take the day off from work so that I can focus on getting ready for the expo because it's going to take me all day. That's what I did last time, and it's really the only way to do it. Let's see. Oh, Yotaro, yeah. So the species is Carinus with a CH, Carinus acosta, I believe, of the tailless whip scorpion that's small and parthenogenetic. I mean, they're dinky. I think they're like about this big, maybe even a little smaller than that. They're quite small. So gecko ants, yeah. Breeding tailless whip scorpions can be, I've never succeeded in doing it. I've had the male and female mate produce spermatotheca, but I never had any successful broods from it. So I'm hoping to start over again with that. If you look up whose book? Oren's book on tailless whip scorpions, I bet you'll get some good information from that. So Sanosuke, making your own substrate, looking for nutritious things that you can mix into the substrate. You might want to consider making your own flake soil if you can get oak pellets. Uh, that would be a really nutritious thing you could add. Another thing you can do, if you're just talking about isopods specifically, can you get leaf litter? I'm in a place where there's not irrigation, it's desert, but here obviously it's not very deserty because there's irrigation. Um, but I can get leaf litter pretty easily because I have lots of trees and I don't spray them with pesticides. What is your situation leaf-wise? Because you can get some super nutritious leaves if you um, make sure they're decomposing before you offer them. Majors Exotics, you got Porcelio Hoffman's egg eye. They are a great one. Okay, marble land crabs, cool. I don't know if I've seen that species before, marble land crabs there, Broad Hunter. It's great to be outside, Emily. It's I decided just to revel in the fact that that the weather is perfect, and maybe you can all enjoy that too. I was going to bring a snake out or something, but timing didn't work out because I had to feed all the snakes today, and so they're all have full bellies, except for Ruby, who's not eating because I think she's about to give birth. And garter snakes often go off their feed a week or so before they give birth. She doesn't always. Sometimes she'll do a thing where she'll go off her feed for 10, 5 to 10 days before she gives birth, and then the day or two before she gives birth, she'll eat. Weird, but I think she's in that state right now. Um, so Kimberly Kitty, love to hear more about Sky Island Adventures. You've got a reservation for July. Awesome. That is so cool. Well, what would you like to know? I can highly recommend it. I got to be one of the first guests there, so to speak, before our reservations were really live. Peter was kind enough to host me, allow me to come down and have the kind of the pilot experience, which was fantastic. Um, so if you have specific questions about it, I'm totally happy to answer. It's going to be a little bit different now because it's gone on. He's gone through an entire season and now into the second season of doing it. So he's changed a few things. He has more spaces, for example, more people are there. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. Yotaro, you have velvet ants where you keep your horses. Awesome. Are they the big reddish ones with the black bars on them, the Dasymatilla occidentalis? So magnificent animals. You got your first isopods from Kyle's auction. That's Kyle from roachcrossing.com. He's had he has had auctions in September and not September, in October and April, which is really cool. Peacegaber orange calico, awesome. Peacegaber orange, Armadillodon depressum, and Peornatus yellow dot. Excellent. Great isopods. Cryptic bell getting a millipede, excellent. So Ruben, you like the night gold isopods? That's awesome. I think they look pretty cool. Gecko ants, thanks for stopping by. Dezo, we're still here. We're gonna be here for another what do we got? We got another 8 minutes or so, I think. No, we got more than that. Sorry. We've got another half an hour plus. I looked at the clock wrong. Sorry. So yeah, Ruby is going to, I think, I would be surprised if Ruby does not have her babies within 2 weeks. And I wouldn't be surprised if she has them within a week. Last year it was May 10th, and I took her out of brumation mid-February last year, and she gave birth in May 10th. This year I also took her out of brumation in mid-February, so it could be any time. The thing is, just because we had, I think I saw 3 clear lockups within the first week, but a lockup or a mating, like a successful mating, not just courtship, but actual mating, is not guarantee that she's pregnant. Obviously, it's a good sign that it could happen, but so I'm not sure exactly when she became pregnant or gravid or whatever you call it with a ovoviviparous snake. Anyway, her clutter is coming soon. She's very, very rotund. She's showing scale spread. Could be any time. And Kriegs, yes. Northern Utah's weather has been fantastic, so I'm enjoying it right now. So Deso, whereabouts in the world are you? If there are nasty scorpions hiding under the logs. So Theropod Hunter, would you consider a smooth or rough green snake as a beginner friendly? Not my first choice for a beginner snake. Not that I have actually kept them. I have to put that out there. But just from what I know about them, it wouldn't be in my top 10 snakes for a beginner at all. Because one, they tend to be kind of flighty. And not good subjects for handling. I guess that's the main reason why, because they eat insects, which is kind of awesome. You can give them things like silkworms and hornworms and crickets and I assume roaches and things like that. Um, so insects, being able to feed a snake insects is kind of cool. I've heard they do well in bioactives, so that sounds fun. But I think they're more of a display snake than they are a handling snake. Um, so yeah. So Ruben Daly, have I seen any of the rattlesnakes endemic to the Sky Islands? On my trip last time, I did not see any rattlesnakes, which Peter actually said was kind of weird that we didn't see any. We did see reptiles. I saw a few lizards, saw a lot of amphibians, and we found a turtle, I think it was a Sonoran mud turtle we determined. So we did not see any rattlesnakes when we were there, but like I said, Peter had seen one a day or two before I came and was kind of surprised that we didn't see any. And the buggy gal, hello. Ooh, you got a shipment from Smugbug, Peacekeeper Dalmatian next, High Red Armadillidium klugi. So probably which one are you thinking? It's not the Montenegro, it's the other one. Dubrovnik, High Red Dubrovnik probably. The Armadillium Hispanuli marbleized and the Great Hoffs. Titan Isopods. Awesome finds. Well, not finds. Pickups. Acquisitions. That's the word I'm looking for. Awesome acquisitions. See, Sean Meister is here. Diotero. It always makes me happy to know that Ruby's babies are in excellent homes like the one that you have provided for them. That's beautiful. So and Sandy Skinks, I really want to catch Ruby delivering on video. I've tried every time. Last year, well, both years, I just come in the morning and see that Ruby has given birth, and that's the end of that. It's done. So I saw Aunt Sandy Skinks that you asked me a question earlier, and I said, "Oh, I need to get to that in my mind." There it is. Do you still use oak pellets in your iso substrate? Okay, I wanted to answer that. So I don't add just plain oak pellets to my isopod substrate because I don't think it's worth much doing that. It doesn't hurt anything, but I think it's just kind of a waste of resources because you can ferment those, make proper flake soil out of them, or you could colonize them with white rot wood fungus or something like that and get a lot more nutrition out of those oak pellets than you can by just adding them to the enclosure. Because if you add them to the enclosure and let them sit long enough and the substrate is in the right conditions, you may eventually get to the point where that wood is edible to the isopods, and you may not, depending on conditions. But if you make it into flake soil or you colonize it with white rot wood fungus or something like that, then you are going to get benefit out of it. So I would rather leave it out than just put it in straight. And the preference would be to do one of those things to it that I mentioned and then add it. Cryptic, what's my favorite millipede? I have so many favorites. I love flame legs. That was the first millipede I ever kept or bred. That was a number of years ago. I think it was probably about nine years ago when I got my first ones. And then about 10 years ago or so, 8 years ago when they started reproducing. And I actually they're probably some of the descendants of mine out in the hobby because I spread them out a bit into the hobby. So, and I don't keep them anymore, but I wish I did. I love them. I also love ivory millipedes, another one of my favorites. And I have Spirostreptus species 1. I have a colony of those. I like those a lot. So Newberger, do isopods easily get stressed when being rehoused, and can this stress be fatal? Well, it kind of depends on what sort of setup they're going into. If they're going into a basically sterile setup that hasn't had a little time to start becoming microbiologically active. I think that can be stressful for them and sometimes fatal. If they're going into a really nicely microbiologically active uh, setup where the leaf litter is really decomposing and there's wood at the right stage of decomposition for them and so on, I think that's a lot less stressful. So Yotaro, what do you think of a paludarium for garter snakes? Well, I have seen it done really well. All Canadian Reptile Girl, Annalise, has a really cool one for her, I think it's her Lake Chapalas. Um, I think it can be done well. A couple of things to keep in mind for garters with a paludarium. One is that, and I'm saying that Annalise did do a great job in my opinion. I think she did a fantastic job with hers. You need to make sure that they have plenty of space that stays dry. And if you go too small with garters, the way they move around and splash around and so on, you could find that you don't have enough of a moisture gradient in such an enclosure. I think for snakes like Lake Chapalas is a little bit easier because they're essentially semi-aquatic snakes. And so they might be a little bit more resistant to such issues and just need a small area where they can dry off. They should have one, but it's easier for them to do well in something like that. Many of the somewhat semi-aquatic garters can do really well in a paludarium. They just need to make sure they get a moisture gradient, and they get temperature gradient, and they get in their temperature gradient, they have a moisture gradient. So they should have a warm basking area. They should have a cool area where they can dry off to. They should have a warm, moist area where they can, get ready to shed. As long as you make sure you have all these things going on, I don't think a paludarium is bad at all. I think it would be great. And you could probably periodically add some fish that aren't a problem in terms of thiomenes, like live bearing fish, and they could hunt a little bit naturally. I do give my garter snakes some Endler's live bearers on occasion, and they really get a kick out of hunting for them. But I generally just put them in a water dish and offer them. But if you did it in a paludarium, it would be a little bit more natural hunting, more enrichment. And Frank the Tank and I think it was the Buggy Gal were talking about the rehoming die-off too. Yeah, adding a bit of the old substrate, I almost always do that. When I change the substrate, I change half or I change 3/4 of substrate, and that helps. That's a good point. Oh, and Sandy, you just found a runaway female dubia. Good thing they don't really reproduce in houses, huh? I so wish that I could keep roaches at home. My wife never going to let me do that, so I have to wait till I have a facility that's not connected to the house. But someday, not so that they can escape, but they do make excellent food for a lot of creatures, and there are a lot of cool pet roaches too. Okay, so green Jedi monkey, you had just a few dead ones, but you included some that old substrate, so that's a good idea. Yeah, when Noomburger, when you do 100% rehouse, make sure if you do, you get some of that already decaying leaf litter, already decaying wood kind of thing, if you're going to do that. So, oh, Deso, the Hemilipistis riameri. Yes, that is such a cool species. Very social, very interesting in the way that they cooperate to raise their young. Very, very interesting. Love to keep that species someday. Ryotaro catching a snake, giving birth, or laying eggs like catching a fossorial tarantula out and about. So, Ruben, once you disinfect the rotted wood, um, you're going to lose some of the bacterial value, but it may already be to the point where it's not going to be fermented anymore. You won't lose all of the nutrients in rotted wood by disinfecting it through heat, but you will lose some of it because the live bacteria and fungi are good. They're beneficial. But if white wood, for example, the lignins are broken down, but the cellulose is still available as a nutrient, then that's not so bad. It's still edible to the isopods and still pretty nutritious. So green Jedi monkey, have you ever made your own flake soil? Yes, I have. And have you had any bad experiences with flake soil? I've heard of people getting bad batches that kill their culture. I've made it in very small batches, and I don't think I did an excellent job. It worked. I mean, it was obviously fermenting. It was in small batches, like I said. I was able to raise some cottonwood stag beetle larvae, Pseudolucanus or Lucanus mazama. They're local here. I was able to raise some from eggs. I collected adult beetles, had them lay eggs, was able to raise some to adulthood on it. So obviously it wasn't terrible, but I don't think it was the best batch ever. I don't think it was the most nutritious batch ever, because the beetles came out a little small and maybe not the best health, but they did mature into adults, several of them. So I think I had a couple, 2 or 3 something. So it sort of worked, but I haven't had bad experiences with the flake soil I got, but I've heard of people having bad experiences with it. So Cryptic Bell, what's your favorite scorpion? Well, the only 3 scorpions I've kept are the Coahuila Devil Scorpion, the Asian Forest Scorpion, and the Desert Hairy Scorpion. There are plenty of others that I would like to keep. I think some Emperor Scorpions would be cool. I think some of the Flat Rock Scorpions would be neat. There are so many that are cool. I don't want to get anything really hot, but there are a lot of scorpions I would keep. I think a colony of some of the species that reproduce through parthenogenesis would be neat too. There are a few of those. Have I ever heard of Darth Maul millipedes? Emily, that sounds vaguely familiar. Huh, I'm not sure. And the pets. I see everyone using cork barks for isopod hides, but can you use any tree bark within reason? You can use a lot of different tree barks. I would avoid something resinous like pine or spruce or something like that. I would avoid using resinous wood unless it's really old and aged, and is no longer in the resinous state. But I've used oak, I've used maple. You can use other tree barks for sure. You can. One thing with cork bark is that isopods don't eat it very fast. Some isopods will nibble on it faster than others. Silisticus convexus is one. Porcellio dilatatus is another. They'll nibble on cork bark faster than some of the other isopods will. And so one of the benefits of cork bark is that you have a hide that's going to last for a while. Some of the other ones, they will nibble faster. So cork bark is not great for nutrition, but it is great for a hide that's going to last some time. So the Buggy Gal, how should someone go about selling isopods online? Okay, well, yeah, I know what you mean about the permits. Well, even before Supreme Gecko posted that tutorial on permits, the permits have been a thing. I got my permits back a long time ago. It has been weird. Getting the permits is not the easiest thing ever, and but that's what I would first look into, is getting your PPQ 526 permits. And there's some rumors that maybe some of the rules about isopods are going to change soon, so just keep your eye on that. I don't know if that means it's going to be easier for us and we're going to get some species on the exempt list, or if it's going to be more difficult and we're going to lose some of the isopods we already have that we're able to ship. I don't know. But just kind of keep your eye on that and look into the PPQ 526 permit process to start. Make sure you've got that under, you've already done it before you start selling. That's going to make your life easier. Unless you're just selling locally. If you're selling locally, then I wouldn't worry about it. So Tennyson, the Polyxenus lagris. Is that, that's a millipede species, one of the flat millipedes, isn't it? Am I right, Tennyson? It's one of the flat millipedes. Yeah, and Tennyson, if you want to contact me, if you know a site to collect the Pseudolucanus mazama, cool. If you don't, contact me, like DM me, and I can give you an idea of some places you can go to find some. So Ruben, there are a lot of opinions on that, if it's low risk, high reward enough to not disinfect rotting wood. Some people have said, oh yeah, I never disinfect my wood and I'm fine and everything's okay. And other people say, well, I didn't disinfect my wood last time, now stone centipedes and destroyed my isopod colony. So the risk is there and you may not encounter any problems. Closely examining the wood may or may not help. But yeah, there you go. Oh, and somebody asked about deep sea isopods. I've seen them in an aquarium. I've never touched one or anything, but I've seen them. And Yotaro. Oh yes, I can keep scorpions, but not tarantulas. I think the deal was that when we first got married or got together, I don't remember if it was before we got married or after, but sometime we were engaged, I guess, at least, because I was asking him, this is a long-term thing. We're going to be together. I already knew that. And I asked her, what's off the table? What can't I keep? And she said tarantulas and anything with medically significant venom, basically. And then I don't know if she said roaches then, or she said roaches after we moved back from Hawaii and had to live with them. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad to keep her happy, and she's not against me keeping tarantulas or roaches as long as I don't keep them in our house. It can't be a building connected to our house. So my dream is to get a facility where I can keep them. Hopefully, I'd be happy if it were on the property, just climate controlled large shed, something like that. And Pedro, that is true that the permit submission process has changed fairly recently, and I have started redoing my permits, and it is different. I'm not sure if it's easier or worse than it used to be, but it is different. And Pedro, I'd love to see your video because I haven't, most of my permits have not expired, and I have a while before I do it. So I'd love to see that before I finish renewing my permits. Monterey Bay Aquarium has a deep sea isopod touch tank. There you go. There you go. I need to go there. I'm excited to try to go there. So Yotaro, I have had vinegaroons not come out of hibernation till June, maybe even July. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you see it and you can tell it's in there and it's alive, I wouldn't worry too much. They're funny creatures. I love them, but sometimes they'll be in hibernation longer than they aren't. and some years they do that, and some years they don't even hibernate. It's a little tricky. I think we need to nail down some things about them still. I wouldn't be too concerned though. So the buggy gal, I think one issue with the shipping too, as long as you have the state in there and you can put, I think Carlos told me in the address, you just put like a period, and maybe check on that. I might not remember correctly, but as far as I remember, if you have the state identified and you put a period in the address form, then the computer will pick it up, and they know, the humans who are connected to that process know what you're doing. They, maybe check that and see if that even makes sense in the new version, because it may not. I think that's what I did in the old version. So Cryptic Bell, I was actually down at the Butterfly Biosphere, a very cool place here in Utah. It's about an hour, give or take, south of me. I was there with my wife a week and a half ago or so, and they had some gorgeous butterflies. If you haven't seen my Instagram post on that, check it out. I had it's called a yellow-edged giant owl butterfly. It landed on both of us, and it's an absolutely gorgeous, gigantic butterfly. They did have painted lady butterflies for sale there, caterpillars that were, approved for release. You raise the caterpillars and release the adults. Thought about doing that. It was like $35 for a set of 6 or something. And Dawn, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. When I was talking to my wife about tarantulas, she said one of her biggest problems is that people don't just keep one. Um, they keep lots as soon as they get in tarantulas, and that's one of her issues with it. So Yotaro, it hasn't eaten in over 150 days, had it for almost 2 years, it hasn't molted on that all that time. Crazy. So when you see it, here's just a question. When you see it, I assume that it is dug out a little spot where it's hanging out, and you can see its body through the side, through the substrate, because it's carved a little tunnel out up against the glass. Something you might consider, some invertebrates, I know this is true with at least some types, sorry about the airplane, some types of hermit crabs, at least, are much more likely to molt if certain hormones are triggered by darkness. And if this is getting enough light, it might actually be inhibiting the molting process. You might try covering that spot with black paper or something for a few weeks and see if that triggers the molting process. And thank you, Pedro. I will look forward to that. So Major, you do have the painted lady butterfly. Cool. So cryptic, what species of butterfly are you going to get? So Don, you've got 9, and you've got 4 species. Do you have any of the local species of Arizona? Okay, so Yotaro, if it's getting complete darkness, essentially, then I guess I won't have much. Sorry to hear about that. That's not so cool. Now, Manduca sexta, that name is a little bit familiar. See you later, Cryptic. Thanks for joining in. Manduca sexta, the name is familiar to me, but I don't remember what it is. And Theropod Hunter, yeah, you should definitely have larger shells of various sizes and shapes for hermit crabs. Per hermit crab, you should have several options for slightly larger shells. And it's been a while since I've kept hermit crabs, but that is one thing I remember. They need that to keep them from being stressed and keep them from fighting over shells too, because they are communal and you want to keep them in groups, but they will fight over shells if they feel like they don't have a lot of options. Ah, that's why. Hornworms. That's why it sounds familiar. Yeah. My nephew found a hornworm in his garden, and I remember looking it up for him. And yeah, that's where I was familiar. I haven't worked with hornworms. I've found them in the wild occasionally, but I haven't ever used them as food because they're super expensive here. One hornworm is like $3. That's not a very economical feeder. So your temperatures don't seem bad. So the buggy gal, I haven't kept ball pythons with isopods in a bioactive enclosure, although I've met people who have purchased isopods from me to do so. But hopefully that, I mean, it appears to work for a lot of people. So Doru, when you say more social than the zebras you have right now, you mean more visible to humans? I would say zebras are actually not bad once you get a big enough colony. They're really out and about. But if you want a species that's even more out and about than zebras, that's an armadillidium, Armadillidium gestroy. They do an excellent job of being out and about, like more so than any armadillidium that I have kept in my experience. And that, it may depend on conditions and whatnot, but Armadillidium gestroy, super brightly colored and out and about so much, even in fairly small cultures. If you're looking at something else, you don't want necessarily to do an armadillidium, then some porcelios are a good option, like Frank DeTank is saying. Dairy cows, milkbacks, they're up there for sure. There you go. The Pets has dairy cows with a ball python and powder orange with 2 other ball pythons. So there you go. Thank you, the Pets, for sharing that. That's good information. Oh, wow, Emily. Hornworms are even more expensive where you are. That's crazy. Huh. So I think it was Tarantula Cat uses a good number of hornworms because she lives right next to a place that breeds them and they can get them for a lot cheaper. They're like $1 each or something, maybe less. Green Jedi Monkey, oh, you won't be disappointed with Gestroy. I can almost guarantee it. I love them. If I had to pick one display isopod out of all the isopods that I keep now, and somebody said, oh, you can only keep one display species, that would be it. hands down. Somebody just asked about if I keep tailless whip scorpions. Moon did, and I do. I have 2 diamond diadema right now, young ones. Let's see. Another question. How do I encourage? Spasmatic wants to know how to keep my zebras to breed. How do you get your zebras to breed? Zebras can be funny in that they take a little while to get started, but then they go nuts. I bought my first ones in November, and or in July, and they weren't breeding till November or something like that when I first got them. But then they kind of go crazy. One thing that some people like to do is not let the whole enclosure dry out, obviously, but make sure they always have a moisture gradient and there's always a hydration station for them. But if you kind of let the enclosure get a little bit dry without extremes, obviously, that is supposed to encourage them. At least some people have found that. So theropod hunter, have I ever seen millipedes follow each other in a single file? Not that I can think of. That sounds pretty cool. And the buggy gal, yes. Yes, there you go. The buggy gal's vouching for what I just said. They do love to sit out on their cork bark. They really do. It's fantastic. That's why I have 2 display isopod enclosures at work. And one is Gestroy, and the other one is a rainbow mix of Porcelia laevis, because they're some of the most visible isopods ever. And the rainbow mix, that's what I call milkbacks with oranges and with California mix, which are probably 3 different species that have been labeled Porcelia laevis. As far as we can tell, they are 3 different species, according to the most recent classifications. But they do really well together. They're very similar. And I've kept them together for a few years now, and they do fine. Oh, so Don, you do have a Phonopelma calcodes. I fell in love with that species when I got to go see it at Sky Island Adventures. I really did. It was beautiful. I got to see 1 female and quite a number of males, and I'm just blown away by how cool they look and by the fact that this wild male crawled up right onto my arm and just peacefully wandered on my arm, and then I put it back down and it was fine. So cool. I want to keep that species. It's on my list of species. As soon as I get a facility, I'm going to do that. And there you go. See, Tennyson is mentioning something that I've talked to Kyle at Roach Crossing, and I know Tennyson is always in his streams because I watch the replays even when I can't watch the streams. And yeah, roaches and isopods do amazingly well together. Another reason why I want to get a facility so I can keep roach and isopod colonies together in some cases. Crystal's Pets and Plants is here. Excellent. So Aunt Cindy Skinks, you can buy hornworm eggs from Josh's Frogs. I need to check that out. That sounds like a very intriguing thing to do. And then I can let them grow a bit and then feed them off to my spiders and stuff. A Dalmatian Cresty. I used to have like a mild Dalmatian Cresty, but my niece ended up inheriting that Dalmatian Cresty, but they are very cool. She was really, really wanting a Cresty, and I had, our Cresty keeps producing parthenogenic babies, and we didn't have room for all the Cresties, so I rehomed that Cresty to my niece, who now has it. So Green Jedi Monkey, I have some tricolors. I don't think I have very much anymore. They didn't do extremely well. They bred for me, and I think I still have some babies in there. I think the adults died off, though. I think I need to dial in a little bit more to their husbandry and see what's going on. So KBN, going to your first reptile show next weekend. It's not the Wasatch Reptile Expo, is it? That's where I'm going next weekend. So if you're there, if you happen to be at that expo, come see me because I'll have a table. Maybe you should buy some from me if you're there. I know it's a long shot that it's the same expo. Just throwing that out there. You have your enclosures all done. Happy little springtails in them. What do you get first? Kind of depends on what you're interested in doing. Are you looking for display isopods? If so, try to get some Gestroy and try to get some Porcelia laevis. Some of the fun varieties of Porcelia laevis, or at least ones that we think are. Another one, if you want to do something that's really good for bioactive in a lot of different situations, but is also fun to watch, get some interesting color variety of Porcelionides pruinosus. So that would be a good option because they're colorful and very active and excellent for almost any bioactive. Okay, Don, it's a deal. If I am able to get my facility, I would very happily adopt your Arizona blonde female, one of them. That would be so cool. Um, so yeah, I'm going to try to. I need to figure out a way to fund it. I have no idea how to get that going, but I need to do it. Yeah, my understanding, Tennyson and Rubin, is that if you, the roaches, and this is from conversations with Kyle, it works best with ovoviviparous roaches, so that they give birth to live young, so that they don't have a vulnerable ootheca stage. Otherwise, the isopods can go crazy, eating their eggs, potentially, things like that. Also, it works best with roaches that climb, I think, because then the roaches don't get bothered by isopods getting in huge densities and crawling all over them or getting when they molt. But things like hissing cockroaches that can climb and get out of the way of the isopods and not have to worry about being bothered when they molt or about egg cases, something like that. But I think there are quite a few combinations that work well from what I remember. We did a whole episode on that. I interviewed Kyle about that. We ended up talking quite a bit about isopods as well, to be honest. So Yotaro, do you have a phonopelma too? I just got a big rodent order from Rodent Pro. I actually ordered rodents mostly, but I ordered 25 chicks, the extra small chickens, and gave one to my corn snake, and he took it just right off. I It was defrosting in a bag with mice, but he saw that thing doing the rodent dance, which is now the chicken dance, I guess, and just grabbed it. He was good to go. So Sean Meister, this tree blooming back here, this is calorie pear. Beautiful but stinky. And Yotaro, yeah, that's one of the reasons I like Rodent Pro. They offer the free shipping if your order go past a certain amount, and mine generally does, because I think I ordered, what did I order? 350 rodents at once plus 25 chicks. And sometimes I'll go with other people. I have a few people around and I'll say, hey, I'm going to do a rodent order. You want to go in with it on me? And then everybody gets free shipping, which is awesome. Um, Spasmatic Nikki, do isopods actually eat springtails? Sometimes they do. I've heard that, is it Pakchong? The Cubaris species Pakchong will hunt and catch springtails. I haven't seen it, but I've heard that. Moon, you're getting your first corn snake. That's awesome. Which morph are you getting? I love corn snakes. Whoa, Yotaro, that sounds awesome too. That sounds fantastic. I'd love a Nandu and a curly hair. I just need to get a facility. I have a shed that I'm thinking of converting, and I've talked to Chain, and I think he changed his name from Chain to something else on here, but thinking of converting it to a facility, but that's going to take some money too because it's not climate control, is not insulated, so I need to do that. Yeah, the Schonmeister, the pears are not edible to humans. They're very tiny. They're like the size of a, what would you say? Bigger than a pea, like the size of a service berry or something. And they're maybe even smaller than that. And they're not edible to humans. Birds like them. They smell really bad. And Emily, I have never kept any stick bugs. I find them fascinating, but I've never kept any. Theropod hunter, best beginner chameleon. From what I hear, there isn't one. But I haven't kept chameleons. I only babysat one for a very short period of time. So All right, well, I guess I'm about out of time, everyone. So there's the two airplanes going over as I'm about to log off here. So I'll wait for a second. I wanted to thank everyone for showing up and enjoying the beautiful weather out here with me in front of my stinky calorie pear tree. And I hope to see you all soon. Have a video coming out on Friday, so make sure not to miss that. And I hope you have a great week. Take care.